There we go, Pablo. All right. Looking good. Looking good. We will get out of that. And we will go here. Oops, we'll go there. Where are we going to go, Pablo? Where are we going to go? Hold on just a second. All right. Is that not going bigger? There we go. All right, cool. There, Krakow. Look good, looking good. We got my Morning Robbins. What's going on, Mac? Looks like we got my Zoom thing behind me. I forgot I was going to change it over to Pablo. Daniel, Rob, que paso? Hold on just a second. Bill? All right, looks good. Have any of you all put on any weight for the quarantine? Man, I feel my belly, man. Woo! Al, K House, K Paso. I feel my belly, that's for sure. Man, alive. I am definitely not. I could definitely lose a couple pounds. Thomas, Nancy, Jeff, what's going on? And so starting tomorrow, my wife's birthday is on Friday. We all came up with the idea that we're gonna have we're gonna go 4 days without sweets and stuff. I'm like, whew, okay, but she was saying we need to lose a couple pounds, so I agree. So hold on just a second. Let me do this. We're gonna do that. All right, you've been losing weight, huh? All right. Somebody's got to do it because I've been catching it. You've been losing, I've been getting it. All right. Pulverizer, wishing I was fishing. Another Michigan guy, right on. Michigan's represented quite well in Old Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel, that's for sure. So let's go back here. All right, I want to share with you guys a couple of things I've been meaning to do a video on for a while, but I've been drinking too much coffee, man. That ain't no lie. Oh my goodness, I've been drinking a lot myself. There we go. All right. I've been drinking a lot of coffee myself. Yeah, more exercise, less eating. For me, it's less eating. I just need to eat less. But when I'm sitting around, I just get the. I do want to start snacking, and I usually don't eat a whole lot of crap. But the last couple of days, I found myself eating a lot of crap. That's for sure. I don't know anything about Augusta, Georgia. I mean, I've been there once, and it didn't do anything for me. It didn't do anything for me, but I know some people like it down there. I was not impressed. Let's just put it that way. I think of the of Augusta or Savannah. I think Savannah is better than Augusta. I think more people are keen on Savannah. That's for sure. Sailed by my background picture, says Dana. Right on, man. Right on. That's fantastic. So I want to go over a couple of things here. And I did this on my live stream for my subscribers the other day, but while I am going to do it here as well, I'm going to show you the right capital, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing, what I've done here. That way you can get a gauge. Any of you guys are using right capital. Hold on a second. Let me just make sure. Okay, cool. If you're using right capital, I want to, oops. Yeah, man, you can see my face. I definitely put on some pounds, that's for sure. Sample, there we go. We're gonna go Lanny. All right, there we go. Cool. All right, so let's make sure we are up here. There we go. All right, cool. All right, so then I want to, all right, so I'm going to start with this right here. And I'm going to share with you a screen. Boink. Let's make sure we can see this here. Yeah, I can definitely see my face, put on some pounds. I can see it. Woof. Not looking good, my friends. But what are you going to do? All right, let's see if I can see this guide to the markets as of March 31st. Hold on just a second. I'm just looking at this other picture to make sure you all can see this. It looks like it's a couple seconds behind me. Is it coming up or what? All right, there we go. Sweet. All right, cool. So let's go over to Right Capital. All right, cool. Here we go. So now I'm under Right Capital, and I'm I just want to make sure I got the blank. All right, there we go. All right, cool. Never heard of Cuscowilla. Never heard of that. Tom, what's up in the house, man? Fort Gordon, Georgia. All right. So yeah, the wood, we're gonna go. I was thinking about if I can figure out how to do it, I was gonna go on the whiteboard, but I'm not sure how to do that with a background. I get you, Vic. I get you. All right, so let's make sure we got the Right Capital up here. All right, cool. Good. All right. So I want to show you real quick. So we're going to go to investments, and just for any of you all who are on Right Capital, who use the software, you can't change the target allocation. And I just change. I mean, sometimes I'm showing somebody the most aggressive. Sometimes I show. So this will change whenever I change it for everybody. But you can't change it. I can. But I want to show you something. So we have, what I've done here is I've reduced the rate of inflation to 2%, which is the target rate for the feds. All right, so I'm using that 2% rate of inflation. I've reduced the Social Security cost of living adjustments to 2.4%. All right, so we got Social Security, at 2%, Social Security at 2.4% cost of living, inflation at 2%. I've increased medical cost inflation from 5 to 5.5. All right, so 5.5 is what I'm using for medical care increases, just FYI. And then I've reduced their performance on cash to 0.5%, bonds to 2%, and stocks to 6.5. And I kept the standard deviations of all that. So just FYI. So basically, other than let's see, inflation going down from 3, I was using 2.5, from 2.5 to 2. Everything else is going against you. Cost of living adjustments for Social Security is going against you. Increase in Medicare and healthcare costs is going against you. Investment returns are going against you. Same standard deviation. So I've reduced that across the board. And the reason I did that is because I don't just do this willy-nilly. I did this because I wanted to make sure what the trustees report came out for CMS, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, and then Social Security Administration. So they have two different trustees report. And the Social Security cost of living adjustment for Social Security was reduced to 2.4 from now until basically 75 years. Social Security trustees are looking at like a 75-year package. And so they're saying, how long do we expect the program? They're looking for the long-term results. And so they're using 2.4. The Medicare stuff, the healthcare costs, Part B. So remember, Part A, you're paying for through FICA. All right, that's your hospital insurance. Part B, you're paying through for your Medicare Part B premiums when you go on Medicare, right? And then Part D. So Part A is free because it's already paid for it in theory. Part B is what your premiums are. Part D is your prescription drugs. And then if you want a Medigap supplemental policy or Medicare Advantage. So I'm using 5.5% because the trustees, they think is going to be around 6% increase for basically the next 10 years. But then from 2044 to 2094, they're expecting only a 3.7% increase. So I didn't want to use 6% from as far out from here until the end of time, because I don't think that's not what they're saying. So, but I did want to get it higher for the next, the interim for the next 10 to 15 years, because they think it's going to be around 6%. So I'm using a 5.5%, which according to the trustees could be significantly higher than what their expectations are for the next 75 years, essentially. So just FYI. So when you're running plans, you might have seen a reduction in what it looks like your numbers. All right. And if you do, that's because of the changing what we're using. Now, it's interesting because when I was on that webinar with Buckingham, they actually think that because the markets got hammered in the last month, I guess 2 months ago now, that there's more upside potentially. And it sounds like they're thinking about changing their metrics a little bit based on just what has recently happened. I don't want to do that. I don't like that stuff. What they're saying is when the valuations are lower, historically have higher rates of return going forward. When valuations are higher, historically have lower rates of return going forward. I'm not sure we're out of the woods when it comes to low valuations. I don't know. I'm not sure we are there yet by any stretch of imagination, especially after we have this nice little run up. So if that's a dead cat bounce or is that a real? I don't know. But I don't like changing stuff I don't change anything on just a whim. I change all basically according to the trustees report. So anyway, I want to show you something because this is where you guys can't see this, but if you go down here, this is the best return you're going to get is 6.5%. That's all U.S. total stocks with a standard deviation of 17.3. And I'll show you how you can mess around with this here in a second. But you go U.S. total stock is 6.5 is a return from now until the day you die with a 17.3% standard deviation. If you go down to all bonds, you'll see a 2.1% rate of return with a 4.6% standard deviation. So everything is going to be between 2.1 and 6.5, no more, no less. Unless you want all the cash, then it's going to be 1/2 1%. Now, if you go to most aggressive, you'll notice it's not quite as high as all stocks. And the reason for that is because you got international equities in there, emerging markets, which I did give a little bit higher rate of return, not much, but a lot more of a standard deviation. But then you got some bonds in here. So this right here, you could do this. It's a little bit more diversified. And it's not really changing that much in terms of overall performance. A little bit less standard deviation. It's not going to matter that much. Or you can go to preservation. So basically, you can go you got 2.9 to 4.8. So you can see all this. And you can go to balanced. Balance is going to be 50-50. So it's 4.5. So you got basically 2.1, 6.5 to 4.5, if that makes sense. So how you mess around with this is you go to retirement. All right. And then you go down. You can't touch this target allocation, but you can. I'll show you how to do it. You go to retirement analysis and go down here to where it says action items. Make sure you click on this button that says action items. If you don't, it's going to be, there won't be anything. I don't know why they don't populate it automatically, but you got to click on action items and it'll populate this gray screen here. All right. And once you populate this gray screen, you'll see you have these slider bars and then you have these drop down boxes. All right. So you got these slider bars. You can do whatever you want. These drop down boxes. So what you can do in these drop down boxes, you say current allocation, and the current allocation is just fed off what this allocation is right here, which is literally your current allocation according to how you put your accounts. You put your accounts in the system, however you did it. That's going to be your current allocation. All right. So you go there, and then so what you do is go to retirement. So in this case, it's a 6634 current allocation. And we want to make it all stocks, for instance, just all US stocks. And we're going to hit refresh. And instead of 883,000 right here, it's going to be 1.075 million because they have more higher rates of return, even though it's more volatile. And this would be a good place to take some time for you guys to understand how standard deviations work. I'm not going to do that here, but just the more volatility, the higher rate of return means the more likely of also the volatility could be negative on you as well. And so if you go to confidence, you'll see these little asset simulation proposed plan. So they're doing thousands of different iterations of your portfolio based on the standard deviation and your average rates of return, the volatility. And they're saying, what's the likelihood of you having no money, or what's the likelihood of you having all kinds of money? So if we look here, by the time this guy's 80 years old, this is just a sample, by the way. There's a $715,000 median liquid, just liquid net worth, not total net worth, just liquid, only investment assets, not including real estate. Median means 50% of the time there's more, 50% of the time there's less. So you can see at 80 years old, based on all the income they're taking out of their portfolio, 50% of the time they have more, or they have $715,000, if that makes sense. 5% of the time or less, they had no more than $236,000. So basically, within 5% of the time or less, they had no more than 236. 5% of the time or less, they had more than 1.8 million. So we take these outliers, these are outliers on the top, we throw them out. And we say, look, between 25 and 75% confidence level, they had roughly $500,000 to $1 million liquid assets in their portfolio. So there's a lot going on here, but I think it's pretty important to understand how standard deviations work. And again, standard deviations is a simple bell curve. It may or may not come to fruition. There's always a fat tail, which is what Nassim Nicholas Taleb had written about, the black swan, the fat tails out there. But at the end of the day, we don't know anything about the future, so it's the best you got, man. It's the best to get a gauge of what likelihood under certain circumstances your portfolio will survive you. Now, if we go to income, you'll see one of the things I do like about this, it'll say 85% of the income is stable. And the reason it's stable is because it's coming from Social Security. All right, so in this case, the bulk of their income is coming from Social Security, which means it's not at risk to a portfolio declining, break of the bank. Remember, when you're in distribution stage, all right, so this is what everyone makes a mistake on. A lot of people want to make a mistake on that they want the most efficient portfolio, as if there's some kind of freaking, you can't quantify it, but they'll say the efficient market theory, it's nuts. They want like who was it that was writing about the bucket strategy? They said the bucket strategy isn't the most efficient. When you're in retirement, it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. You just want to make sure you don't run out of money. Screw efficiency. You just want to make sure you don't run out. So if we have 85.8% stability, that means it's coming from a guaranteed source, be it a pension or an annuity or Social Security or a combination. And the reason why it's important, because we go up to stress test, you're going to see what happens when we have a market fall, and it's not going to affect this guy that badly. So here we got we got 90% market crash. If we have a 90% market crash, he's running out of money. So his base is 100%. We had a 90% market crash, he's running out of money. So he's not going to have a 90% market crash. What if we had a 30%? We hit refresh, a 30% market crash, and this guy's, let's see here, is it still work? Okay, so here, because he has so much stability in income, he was Maggie and Laney, I think, a 30% market crash will not doomsday these guys. If we have a 50% market crash, all right, let's see what happens. They got it's thinking, and then you still got 100% probability of success. And you can do this on your own. Well, if you have an 80% market crash, it'll probably be down to 20% success, I imagine. So let's take a gander here. Yeah, so it's down to about 31.2. So you can play around these numbers, all these numbers, retirement, stress test. Now, if Social Security is reduced by 60%, look at that. That's bad, because that is what they're relying on. They're relying on Social Security to pay the bills. And if Social Security is reduced significantly, they could be in a world of hurt. So let's go to 20%, which is what we're worried about right now. And if Social Security is reduced by 20%, their probability of success goes from 100% to 77.9. So that's still pretty good if you ask me. But anyway, and you can do all this for sure. I do want to point out, inflation will be higher by, it says 3.5%. Well, I already got 2% in here. So it'll be 3.5% above the rate I'm using. So in this case, inflation will be 5.5. And you can see that right there. And it doesn't affect them at all. Anyway, I thought that'd be pretty interesting to point out. So I just want to show that to you how that works, because you can go down here and play with these numbers. If you want to go to all bonds, it won't look as good, because all bonds only gives 2.1% probability of success. You still have 100% probability of 2.1% return. You still get 100% probability of success, but you don't have as much money. And the reason for that is because you're not getting as much growth. That's all there is to it. So there you go. And then you can mess around with Social Security. You can take out all these things. There's lots you can do here, which I like a lot. The distribution proposal, and this is what a guy on the live stream the other day I did with my Subscribe Star members. I want to show you what that is. So you go to distribution strategy. All right. So you go to tax. All right. So you go to tax. Hey, Rebecca. And what you're going to do here is you go down to distributions, tax distributions, and you scroll down to withdrawal strategy, and you'll see I got it set up for me, for this guy here, tax deferred, taxable, tax free. All right. So we want the withdrawal strategy to come from tax deferred accounts first, then taxable, then tax free. You could do any of these other ones you want, but don't. I don't see any reason why you do that. You'd always want to go tax deferred most likely first, then taxable, then tax free. And when you do that, what you'll do is you go back to retirement, and then we'll go to, okay, it looks like it's the same strategy. So the same strategy is that, but you go down there and you hit refresh, and nothing's going to change here because it's the same strategy. But anyway, so you can play around these numbers. It's I love it. I think it's fantastic. I'm a big fan. Again, while I'm on this, I'm going to show you the tax forms. Here you go to 1040s. It just, I mean, look at this. So in this case, let me just go to cash flows. Let me just see what I got here. All right. All right. All right. So let me show you what I want to do here. We're going to go to cash flows, and we're going to look at their income flows. You can see their income flows are going to be all from Social Security. All right. So we have Lanny taking Social Security right there. 18,000 his benefit, 36,000 in the wife's benefit. So he's living, or whoever's first, is it? Yeah, Lanny's living off his spousal benefit. All right. So in this case, they're living off, what's that, 54,000 a year in Social Security. All right. Well, what does that mean? If they're living on 54,000 a year in Social Security, watch this. How much taxes are they going to pay? All right. So we're going to show you 54,000 a year of Social Security. Oops, I went to the wrong one. 54,000 a year in Social Security, and you'll notice they're not paying any taxes. So here's their Social Security benefits, 54,000, and there's their taxes. Their taxable Social Security amount, a big fat goose egg. Look at that. But they have $26,000 of standard deduction that's essentially being wasted because they have no taxable income. Line 10 is taxable income. They got nothing there. So they have 54,000 of income, but they have no taxable income because it's all Social Security, which means they pay no taxes. So you're sitting there thinking, well, we should do a $26,000 Roth conversion, Josh, to take advantage of that $26,000 standard deduction that's been wasted. So what we'll do is we'll go to profile, and we're going to go to income, and we got that's an old box here. Let's do what's his name? I guess we already got Roth conversions up there. So go to Roth conversions. We're gonna, who's got the accounts actually? Hold on just a second. Let me, who's got the accounts? I forgot. Is it Lanny or is it Maggie? So Maggie's got the IRA. All right, so we're gonna go to income, and we're gonna go to Maggie's IRA or Maggie's Roth conversions. And what we're gonna do, I think it's an IRA, was it not? We're going to convert $26,000 in 2020, and we're going to stop in 2020. Oops. And we're going to convert to Roth. All right, so you see what I'm doing here? I'm saying Mary or Maggie? I think it's Maggie. Maggie Roth conversion. We're going to take $26,000 from her IRA. We're going to convert it to a Roth. All right, so we're going to hit save. Now remember, we're doing that because they had $26,000 of a standard deduction that was being wasted. There was no income to be offset by that standard deduction because their only income was Social Security. And if Social Security is their only income, there is never a taxation. You don't owe anything. So in this case, we're saying, well, why not take advantage of that standard deduction? You ready? So let's take a gander, shall we? We're going to go to retirement. Remember, they had no tax before, none. And now they're going to have tax. Whoa, wait a second. They got $1,300 in taxes. What's that about, man? they were supposed to not have any income tax because they had a $26,000 wasted standard deduction. And now they're using their standard deduction to do a Roth conversion. And that should still put them at zero taxable income. Zero taxes due, and yet it doesn't. It makes them pay $1,397. What's that about? Josh, your software is jacked up. And I'm going to show you what's about. So we go to tax, we go to detail to see their 1040, and we'll see that $54,000 of Social Security distributions. Well, now 13,841 of that is now subject to taxation because of the $26,000 Roth conversion. So what that $26,000 did of Roth conversions is now that makes their taxable income go up to $40,000. So it increased their tax, or their AGI increased their adjusted gross income, not by $26,000, but by $40,000, because before they had no gross income. And now that $26,000 added another $13,841 because it made part of that Social Security subject to income tax. Isn't that crazy? So they don't have $40,000 of new taxable income or gross income. They only have $26,000. But that $26,000 made portion of their Social Security subject to taxation, which means their gross income now is $40,000. You subtract that $26,000 out for standard deduction. That means their taxable income is $14,000, which is the 10% tax bracket. Sucks, doesn't it? So I'm telling you right now, people make this mistake all the time. They say, hey, I just take advantage of the standard deduction and I'll do Roth conversion up to that point. And I'm like, well, there's more to this than meets the eye. So now let's go. We'll go back and we'll say, we'll go to profile. And we'll say, all right, Maggie, instead of doing 26,000, why don't you just do a $15,000 Roth conversion? Let's see what that looks like. And I don't have any idea what it's going to look like. So let's take a gander. We go to tax. So now we're just doing 15,000. And we're going to go to details. And even that 15,000 has still made 5,000 of their Social Security subject to taxation. But because that 15,000 of Roth conversions plus the extra $5,000 of Social Security, their gross income is only $20,000. It still puts them underneath the standard deduction. All right, so they're still not paying any income tax. And this is where you got to kind of go back and forth. So now you say, okay, well, let's go. Oops, no, we want to go to profile. What happens if we did a $20,000 Roth conversion instead? Would that put us, keep us in the no tax bracket thing? So we go $20,000 and we say, let's take a look at what that looks like. And it probably will make us a little bit taxable, but not much. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, so here we got $20,000 of Roth conversion. We add $8,700 to our tax or our gross income because it does make our Social Security now, some of it subject to taxation. And now we have $2,865 of taxable income in the 10% tax bracket. So you can see how that goes. So essentially what's happening here is increasing your Roth conversion from $20,000 to $26,000. That's a $6,000 increase in your Roth conversion amount from $20,000 to $26,000. That increased your taxes by $1,000, actually a little bit more than 1,000, but it's actually $1,100. So in that case, that extra $6,000 increased your taxes by 18%, even though you're only in the 10% tax bracket. And again, the reason is because it made a portion of your Social Security subject to income tax. I cannot stress this enough. When you're on this area of the planning realm, don't get caught up in tax bracket management without knowing how this works, because so many people are going to sit there and say, well, I want to do Roth conversions to the extent it can put me in these upper tax. I want to maximize my tax brackets. And so basically say, I want to fill up the tax bracket of the, let's see, 10%. We'll even do that right there. I want to fill up that tax bracket. Well, there's more to this than just you being underneath the $78,000 AGI limit or taxable income limit. There's more to it when you're on Social Security. I'm just trying to caution you guys, be careful before you start saying, oh man, I got $26,000 of standard deduction I can play with. Maybe, but I just proved it to you. That $26,000 Roth conversion actually increase your taxes by 18%, even though you're only in the 10% tax bracket. So that's a pretty big deal. I just want to point that out. All right, so while we're on Right Capital, I do want to show you something else too. If you are doing stuff for COVID-19 84, what you want to do is you want to go to profile, because you're taking money out without sans, as we say in French, sans, penalty. So you want to take income out without penalty. You go to profile, you go to income, and we'll see we got a COVID-19 IRA distribution. This is just what I created. You can create it yourself. And what you do is you go to add income, you do other, and you can name it whatever you want. So in this time, I do IRA distribution for COVID-19. Actually, that's not what I want. Hold on a second. I want to go back. That's not what I want. I wanted this one right here. I want right there. Right there. IRA distributions. It'll ask you the taxation. So here we go to profile income, add income, and you can go down to distribution. Right. So you hit distribution, and it's going to say, where's the money coming from? Well, it's coming from an IRA. And then you say, what is the taxation method? And you scroll on here, you say penalty free, not tax free, but penalty free. So if you're going to do the IRA distributions because of COVID, that's what you want to do. All right. So while we got you on here, let's see what kind of questions we got on. Oops, let me just, there we go. Hold on a second. On the Right Capital. All right. Let's see what we got here. Any questions on Right Capital? All right, looks like, hey, Jody. Yeah, right on, Scott. Anyone else use the Right Capital too? Says invest and grow. Yeah, South Dakota. I was just trying to reconvince my wife we should move up there. I love the governor up there, Kristi Noem. South Dakota is definitely keeping safe relative to their neighborhood states. Was in Minnesota, I think, is next to them. I just find it funny. Minnesota's been draconian. South Dakota's been free. South Dakota's good to go. Minnesota's a basket case. There you go. Rick, I can't. Okay. I don't see anything on Right Capital. Okay, cool. So good. All right. And by the way, if you guys are with Dustin Tibbetts over at Jazz Wealth, he has Right Capital too. Now his numbers will be different than mine. All right, you can change Right Capital numbers any way you want, but his numbers will be different than mine. Just be advised. But Dustin Tibbetts at Jazz Wealth, he uses Right Capital as well. I think he's trying to get his own software done. All right, cool, good. All right, so good. So let's go to that. What else I want to do on these guys? I think I'm good for Right Capital. Seemed like I did what I wanted to do. So I showed you the income, the investment returns. I showed you Social Security. I showed you Medicare, healthcare premiums going up. I showed you what happens with Roth conversions. I showed you the stress test stuff. I guess that's all I can think of that I wanted to show you here. I showed you that you can't change this target allocation, but you can go to retirement and make sure this little green button is clicked, and you can change it here. Retirement monthly expenses, by the way, I do want to point this out. So what you'll see here, when I went to create this plan for these guys, again, these fake guys, I'm going to cash flows. I'm going to goals. And I was working with the guy yesterday, and his retirement plan went from 93 probability of success to 3%. And he's like, whoa, what happened? And I kind of knew immediately what was going on. What you'll see here is we have retirement expenses with loans, retirement expenses without loans. So I have two different retirement expenses here, which I created, which means I needed to zero this out. So a lot of times, like these guys I worked with yesterday, we had GoGo, slow go and no go years. And I think they're like 8,000 a month and go, 7,000 a month and slow go, 6,000 a month and no go. The reason I did that is because if you just put a retirement expense in here, it's going to be adjusted each and every year with inflation. And I don't think that's advisable because I don't think there's any evidence at all that your expenditures are going to go up each and every year with inflation. In fact, the evidence is all against that. So I like creating my own separate boxes here: retirement expense in high, go-go years when you first retire, retirement expenses when you start slowing down, and retirement expenses when you are sitting on the front porch, picking on a guitar strings. But if you're going to do that, make sure you go to retirement. All right. And this is what you got to be careful on, because this is what this guy did. He went to retirement and then he added what he thought would be 7,000 a month here. He went to the slider bar, and I guarantee he's going to be running out of money because what's happening is it's that 7,000 a month is also picking up that other retirement expenses that we had. So just be careful if you're going to do that. You do one or the other. You can do both. Like you say, what if I spend another $500 a month on top of what I already had in there? And look, guys, if you're not getting this, I don't blame you. It just takes time. You got to figure this stuff out just by playing around with it. I've been doing this for 3 years, this software for 3 years. I'm still learning stuff all the time. And I almost gave it up after about 2 months because I was so used to eMoney. And I love eMoney because it's very heavy on estate planning. And I've always enjoyed talking estate planning. But eMoney didn't hold a candle to the tax stuff that this does. And I like talking taxes stuff too. So I like talking taxes more than estate planning. But I almost gave up on it, and I'm glad I did not, because they're just kicking butt, taking name, these guys. But if we add an extra $500 a month, and let's just go here and we go to current allocation, you'll see that where we're going to be ended up here. If we add an extra $500 a month, they're going to have $435,000 as opposed to $996,000 when they die, simply because they're spending an extra $6,000 a year. So it's something to think about. All right. Let's see. So if you guys don't have any questions on that, we'll see what we got. All right. All right. So Roberto says, when I talk about having let's stop this. I want to go back to another thing here in just a second. When I talk about having a cash account, let's see if I can't get up here. It's hard for me to look over there and look over here at the same time. Blink. There we go. All right, there you go. Roberto, what's going on, my man? Rachel, the software is called Right Capital. I don't own it, but I sell it. You have a leasing, essentially, a one-time fee of $150. I don't offer any support other than these videos that we do. I got tons of videos on YouTube. Right Capital has its own YouTube software, YouTube channel as well. And I just don't offer any support though, because it'd be too much. It'd be insane for me. But it's Right Capital software. I freaking love it. It's the best financial planning software there is. Just be advised. But anyway, so that if you want it, and you only have access for as long as I continue to pay Right Capital. Trust me, I pay a whole lot more than $150 a month. But for me, it's great. I love it, and it's software based, or it's cloud based, which means you don't get a like a little CD or anything like that. It's just you can do it on any software you want, any computer. It's freaking awesome. I love it. So it's all cloud based, so you don't need a program or anything like that. Do you spread the tax on the? Yes, I would. Scott says, would I spread the tax on the IRA withdrawal across 3 years? I absolutely would, without question. And so that's a good question. So let's go back to that. Oops. That's a great question, Scott. I knew Scott because he lives in Georgia. He's smarter than everybody else here, would know a good question to ask. So what we'd want to do in that regard, Scott, is you say, okay, I want to go to profile. All right, then we're going to go to income, I think is what I did. Yeah, we're going to go, hold on just a sec. Yeah, so we're going to go to income, and we're going to go to add income. And what we're going to do is go to distributions. And here we're going to make sure it's from Maggie. And we're going to take it from her IRA. But we're going to do it for 3 years. We're only going to do it for 2020 and 2022. And we're going to do it for $33,000 a year, if that makes sense. And we're going to do penalty free. These guys are over 59.5, so it won't matter. But still, and what's going to happen is this will add that $33,000 to their taxable income, if that makes sense. So you'll see if we go to retirement, then cash flows, that 33,000 will be added to their taxable income, which is exactly what happens under the commie virus, the act, the CARES Act. So planned distributions right there, 33, 33, 33, and that will increase that'll add to their taxable income. So let's look at their tax forms. We'll go to tax, crack how, and you go to details, and you'll see, I want to get rid of that Roth conversion. Hold on just a second. Let's get rid of that Roth conversion. Right there. We'll just zero that out. And that's what I do too. I keep all the boxes open, guys. Just because you might come back to it, you might want to play around with it. I just think if you're going to, pay me the $150 to get the software, freaking use it, man. Play around. You're not going to break it. No one knows your stuff. I don't have time to log in and see what you're doing. Say, oh man, I know what you're doing out there, Scott. It's just, no one does that. I mean, I guess someone could. I mean, a Nigerian prince could always take your money as well. But anyway, so let's go back to taxes. And sorry about the unkept. I haven't shaved today. I was actually out cutting more wood today. I was doing all kinds of taking a bunch of trees down. All right, so here we got $33,000. That's their COVID-19 virus distribution on top of their Social Security. So now 20,000 of their Social Security is subject to taxation, which means $53,000 is their AGI. So I cannot stress this enough. They did 30, and I don't even care if it comes from the commie virus or what, it's just $33,000 of distribution has now led to almost a doubling of their adjusted gross income. It's insane. So $33,000 they took out of an IRA, regardless of what the reason was. It made 20,000 of their Social Security, which was previous not taxable, now subject to income tax. So now what went from zero AGI is now to 53,000, all because they had a $33,000 distribution. And so now we go down to $2,900 as their total income tax. All right, so that's a whole lot more than it was when they only had 54,000. So I mean, literally, you say, okay, when they had 54,000 income from Social Security, they had no taxes. They take 33,000 out from their IRA, 2,900 is taxable. So they got to pay tax $2,900. So we just say 2,909 divided by $33,000. And that's an 8.7% taxable rate, which doesn't seem that bad, other than the fact they had 54,000 before, then none of it was subject to taxation. Does that make sense? I don't know. I hope that makes sense. But now, because of the fact that they're using fully their standard deduction twice, it's the tax goes nuts. And I'm not a big fan of that 2100 Act that Larson's Devin Carroll did a video on that. We interviewed the guy. By and large, I'm not a fan of it, but I do like the fact that they're going to get rid of taxation. I'll tell my head, I can't remember what it was, but taxation for Social Security for lower earners. I think that makes sense, income earners. So, but anyway, Scott, that's how you do it. So now you know that the 33,000 will be coming out each year for the 3 years you can do it. It'll be subject to taxation automatically. Hope that helps, brother man. All right, so let's go back here. Go back. Oops, there we go. All right. All right. So Roberto says, when I talk about having a cash account, would that mean I'll have a cash account for all retirement accounts as well as a taxable account? For all retirement accounts as well as a taxable account. When I talk about having a cash account, does that mean I'll have a cash account for all retirement accounts as well as a taxable account? I'm not following you, man. I just look at the aggregate. You got your $300,000 in total, 200,000 is an IRA, 100,000 in a brokerage account, a taxable account. You need your cash account should be of that $300,000, if that makes sense. In that case, it still should be in your IRA, most likely, and your brokerage account should be fully invested without question. But I don't think you need to have a cash account per account. No, not at all. if is Right Capital software you use that I get if I choose to use your services. Is that the software I use? So if you hire, so Thomas, if you hire me as a financial planner for my $750 or $1,900 financial planning fee, the Right Capital comes with it. That is correct. And it's $750 if your liquid assets are less than 500,000. It's $1,900 if your liquid assets are more than 500,000. I've had a couple of people email me your website or something. It says 2,500 and 900. I think is what it was, or 950. I can't remember. Because this freaking comedy virus stuff, I've reduced the fees. People are hurting. I know that for a fact. And I can see the drop off of my own business too. So it's don't get me started down this road how freaking ticked off I am by this, but I've dropped my fees until we get over this. In Georgia, by the way, we've had our lowest number of people who've been affected by the comedy virus. It's very ironic because remember, just last week they're saying Governor Brian Kemp is using a human sacrifice, and yet here in Georgia it was awesome. So today I went down, I drove through Alpharetta, all kinds of people walking around, no masks, not social distancing. It made me freaking celebrate in my heart, saying, you freaking people, I love you. I love you. I love you. I can only imagine what you guys are going through up north with your insane governors, to include Republicans like freaking stupid Bakerhead. And then what's his name? Maryland Hogan. Freaking Hogan. He ain't no hero to me, let me tell you. But anyway, here people are actually acting rational. And if you want to wear a damn mask, more power to you. I don't care. I literally could care less. Your stupid mask. I don't care. At this stage, though, it is, in my opinion, it's a freedom to say, I'm not going to fall for your crap. I'm not going to. And people are like, I can't believe. I was listening to a Brett, what's his name, man? Brett Weinstein, Eric Weinstein's brother today. And his wife was like, you're bat s crazy if you think the mask, blah, blah, blah. It's like, so when do we get to take these off there, lady? When you say it's okay? Is that when we can take these off? Just because you happen to be a professor and you think you're so smart that you say you're bat-ass crazy because you say that? So when are we going to take them off? When you, Mrs. Brett, whatever your name is, you get to, I'm just sitting there thinking, this is nuts. And now they're starting to say, oh my goodness, I read some study they read an article in the LA Times that children now are showing signs. I'm like, like people have, and look, that's fine. If people have this incessant need to be fearful of all things. It is the weirdest thing in the world. And I was so mad. I was out there with my electric chainsaw cutting up some wood. And then I got one of those maul things. Oh, those things are, if you're chopping wood and you don't have a maul, you are wrong. Oh, where has a maul been? I just bought it like 2 years ago. And every time I'm cutting up firewood, I just thank you, good Lord, for giving people the physics understanding to know how maul works. I would not know how it works. But anyway, back to this lady. I'm like, so easy to tell other people they're bat-ass crazy that we shouldn't open up when you got your freaking professorship job, when you get all kinds of income coming in, fool. Anyway, so off on a tangent. So anyway, as long as we're freaking, so at some point I'll raise the fees back up again because the South is going to kick butt and take names. I'm from Maine. I'm a Yankee, dudes. That's right there. That's where I'm from. That what you see right there is where I grew up on. But the facts are the South has more rational people when it comes to, let people be free. And I could not be happier. So once everyone says, oh, like in freaking Oregon, we're going to keep you locked down to July 6th. That's science. That's science and stuff. So here we're not doing it. Florida's not doing it. Various other states are not doing it. Like I said, in South Dakota, not doing it. My man Elon Musk, I cannot, man. Did you hear Elon on Joe Rogan? I only heard tidbits of it. Now Elon is saying he's moving to Texas. I never thought I'd love Elon Musk, but I said, man, Elon, if I was attracted to men of the same sex, I would be attracted to you just because this is awesome. I'm not. I'm attracted to the most beautiful lady in all of the state of Georgia. What happens to be my wife. But if I was attracted, I would say, Elon, I love you. I want to give you a big hug because that was the best thing ever. To move to Texas from California, to tell those freaking little tyrants in Texas and California they can kiss his butt. Man, that guy, to me, it just, I was stunned. So anyway, All right, so the software says is awesome. I need it. All right, so let's see what else we got here. All right, so my man Pulverizer says I have a 401k that I've been funding for 20 years. A Roth started last year, fund at 7k a year. Should I stop the 401k and dollar cost average the regular account? Not if you're getting free money, brother. If you're getting free money, you got to take advantage of the free money for sure. Yeah, look, I don't know your tax circumstance. I don't know who you are, what's going on. I mean, I know who you are just from here, but my default is yes, without quitting. Now, look, perfect disclosure here. So if FINRA and the SEC is watching and they want to freaking lock me up, the cover of darkness like they did to Roger Stone with CNN at the door, by all means, just be advised. I'm telling you, I don't know your situation, but my default is you do your 401k to the extent of the match, and then you stop. Now, if you're in a high income tax bracket and you know you're going to be in a lower income tax bracket, then don't do that. That doesn't make sense. If you're not making that much more money now from an income perspective than you would be in the future, then yeah, I would absolutely not do my 401k, especially if I'm not getting matched and put into a dollar cost average or brokerage account. Absolutely. What assumptions do you recommend planning for? Worst likely, my man Rick, or best outcome? Can you find worse and likely in today's world? I'm pretty heavy on the worst side, Rick, to be honest with you. Probably not heavy. I'm cautiously pessimistic in the software that I use here for sure. But I think with right, there's some legitimacy to that. On bonds is not debatable. Bonds, you're not getting anything. You're just not. I get so tired of having this argument. Well, my bond fund is up 19% this year. It's bonds are the easiest thing to recognize. It might be up 19. I mean, it'll be down at some point to accommodate that. It's just you're not gonna. All right. So bonds, Rick, I'm not being pessimistic at all. I'm being spot on. In fact, even I would say a 2% bond rate, given the 30-year Treasury right now, is at 1.6. Is probably even on the high end, but those 30-year treasuries can come back around. So I'm very comfortable with a 2% bond rate. And look, I'd change that next year if we get a consistent bond yields above 2% on the government bonds. I'd change it for sure. What is the 30-year right now? At 1.38. 30 years at 1.38, and that's up 4.84 off of Friday off the close on Friday. So I mean that's like I said, a 30-year bond at 1.3, and I'm giving you 2. That's pretty lucrative in my opinion. So I think on the bonds, I'm pretty spot on. On stocks, I'm giving 6.5. Vanguard's giving about 4.5, but they're only doing it for 10, and I don't think 10 years. I'm projecting for 30 years essentially. So I'm giving 6.5, which again, you take earnings growth plus dividends. Dividend yields 2. Earnings growth, I mean, I was saying 5.5. Now I'm saying 4.5, simply because of what the hell we're going through now. But that would change for sure. And it changes, like I said, once a year. I mean, I will change it accordingly. But as we sit here today, 4.5% year-over-year earnings growth plus 2% dividend yield, that's your 6.5. I think that completely makes sense. You take out 2% for inflation, so you get a 4.5% real return. That's before taxes too, by the way. Take off a quarter for taxes, and you're looking at 3 3/4. And that's not going to make or break you, but it ain't Dave Ramsey. That's for sure. The issue that we have though is that I mean, here's who would take our place? And you always got to think about it. They always say the dollar is going to be crap. I always sit there and I say, what's the alternative? Okay, I get the U.S. has a lot of debt. Well, Japan has had a lot of debt relative to GDP for years and years and years and years. I mean, and they haven't had hyperinflation. Not happening. So the idea that we have a heavy debt load relative to GDP, we have 105% debt to GDP. That's nothing. Japan's at 260, and their inflation rate is nothing at best. Still looking at heavy deflation, or not heavy, but right there between small deflation to basically zero. It's been like that for years. Um, China, they're I mean, look, they're commie, man. I mean, they're commie with a demographic explosion because they killed all their babies. You know, it's like freaking the Pharaoh under Exodus. You can see where I've been reading my book on Exodus. The same kind of thing. I mean, they're killing off their firstborn. I mean, the thing's friggin' nuts, and they're still commies, so they're not. I mean, they're dead to rights. You know, probably 20 years from now, but who's going to replace us? That's the issue. India, oh, I don't know. India just seems to be, I mean, the people I know, and I know tons of people from India, is a very, I'll never go there and I'll never go to China. I just doesn't have any appeal to me. But India just seems to be such a hodgepodge. It's hard to see that India could just somehow coalesce around a governing authority for 250 years like we have for some reason been able to. And I think it's divine. So I don't know who's going to replace us. And because of this, I mean, hell, not going to be the EU. I mean, Europe's dying. Europe's dying. There's no other way around that, man. Europe is, I mean, 50 years from now, I bet what you know is London today. And I don't mean just because Muslims are immigrating there. I don't, it's not like that at all. I mean, the culture for sure, but it's just they're so narcissistic and so negative about the future. They're not having any kids. And they can bring, you know, immigrants in there and stuff too. That's great. But you know, at the end of the day, most immigrants want to stay where they're at. They don't want to come to this foreign country where they don't speak the language. So you know, you're going to get, I don't know. I just Europe's dead. There's not going to be any growth in Europe. And just look at what's going on now. There is no growth, no growth. And so, you know, Germany might be a little bit unique. I don't see it happening. You know, maybe Eastern Europe, but I don't know. So I mean, I sit there and I look at, you know, like Singapore. I don't know. I don't know who's going to replace us. So we sit here today, we still get the brightest and best of the world's people, which is freaking awesome. Which is why people who say those of us on the right don't like immigrants is nothing could be further from the truth. We like immigrants that make our country better. We freaking welcome them. Come on over, Rover. I'd love to have you. You come here to bust your butt and make America better. You are welcome. Roll out the red carpet for you, for sure. You come over here to freaking, you know, to not follow the laws? No, we'd have nothing to do with you. So I sit there, I don't know who would replace us. And because of that, as long as America is still standing, we're still going to be the dominant, by far, the dominant power. Doesn't mean we're going to have 3% GDP growth, but hey, big man. Yeah. Oh, Pablo wants to be on TV. So, oh, yeah. There he is. Yeah. Look at that guy. Pablo's gaining some weight too. He's got the quarantine 5. So I would, so we're going back to assumptions. I just think at the end of the day, my mind is cautiously pessimistic. And I think if you can make it work there, you'll probably be all right. Yeah, 6 months sit on cash won't hurt much. I completely agree. Texas is a great state to retire to, except the property taxes are through the roof. That's for sure. Yeah, I think Rick says if you had cash on hand and we're retiring later this year, would you recommend investing? No. That has nothing to do with the commie virus. I would not invest it at all. What I mean, why? Just hang tight, see what happens, see how the next 6 months shake out, because you're going to need some money potentially when you retire. I'm telling you, in my I don't think I have it on here. Let's see. No, I don't think I do. In my book, I'm right on Wellington Fund. I show you exactly what happened when you retired in 1930 as opposed to 1931. That one, and I did a video on this today. That 1 year made all the difference because you didn't have any cash. Everything was invested. When the markets were down, you got punched and you never recovered. Because 1930, 1931, and 1932 for Wellington were down. Not as bad as the S&P 500, but they were down. And if you could have avoided that 1930, you were freaking fine. And that's even with taking 6% distributions. Isn't that right, big man? Yeah, you see yourself? Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, the winter's up there, man. South Dakota. Burr. All right, let's see. All right. Talk about Roberto. How do you spread? Okay, we talked about that. Gotcha. Right capital. We talked about that. All right. Let's see what we got here. Jill, you talking to somebody? Oops. Oops, I missed. Hold on a second. Hello, Al. What's going on? My Puerto Rican brother from another mother. All right, missed. All right, here we go. Property tax are 3 to 4% of home assessment. We pay more tax than our loan. Ugh, that's freaking crazy. Oh yeah. I think I see a fin in the water. Not up there, man. It's too cold, I think. Rich, would it be best to use qualified accounts first and defer Social Security, save on taxes, use the tax free accounts while collecting Social Security, pay zero tax, using tax free accounts while collecting, to use up tax qualified accounts? Wait, wouldn't it be best to use up qualified account? Yeah, it would be. This guy's already taken. I mean, yes, if you would want to defer Social Security as long as you can. In this case, the guy was already taken, though, if that makes sense. Rachel says, do I endorse Thomas Anderson's The Value of Debt and Retirement and the Power of Zero by David McKnight approach towards retirement planning? Don't know either. I've seen The Power of Zero's book because my book is on there too, Rachel, and his book comes up next to mine for Roth IRAs. I don't know who Thomas Anderson is. The Value of Debt Retirement sounds kind of frightening to me, frankly. How's there value in debt? Let me just go on that a little bit. I find Rick Edelman talks about this a lot, actually. You might not know who Rick Edelman is, and I've always been a fan of Rick's. Not so much lately. He seems to be wanting to go in the just the guy's kind of irking me a little bit. But anyway, what Rick Edelman was implying, and I don't know if he still does, but at least last year is that you don't want to pay off your mortgage. You want to take a loan, or at least have a loan, and pay off the minimum amount you count on your mortgage. And it's the old silliness that you can get 7% of the market, you're only paying 3% of the bank. And so that's arbitrage. You're borrowing at 3, you're getting 7. And I just always chuckle at that. I said, well, if that's so true, then you should have no equity whatsoever. You should have 100% loan to value. You should be fully maxed out in debt because you can borrow at 3 and get 7 in the market. The problem with that is it's not linear. This stuff is not linear. Why I don't understand why people don't. Even Dave Ramsey. Why can't they figure this out? Markets are not linear. Markets are like this. So if you can borrow at 3, it's a linear fixed cost. You have to pay that back. But if you invest at 7, you're not getting 7 each and every year. In fact, Vanguard, I've done a couple of videos on this. Look, he's invisible. Vanguard, they show you when are we going to get back to average returns? And average returns between 8 and 12%. The S&P 500 has averaged 10.6 going back to 1926. Only 5% of the time have you got between 8 and 12% on any given year. So it's averaged, let's for simplicity, 10%. Only 5% of the time has been 8 or 12, 8 to 12. So the average returns are not average, just average in the long term, but in any given cycle is crazy talk. So this idea that I'm gonna borrow at a linear payment, I'm paying 3% a year, and I'm invest assuming a linear return is it's absurd. It's the insanest thing I've ever heard. I don't get it, especially when we know for a fact we had 4 years in 1929, 1930, 1931, 1932, 4 consecutive down years. 33 was up, 34 was down, 35 was up, 37 was, I think 33, 34, and 35 were up, 37 was way down. That's what it was. So that's in the Depression. You had 1973 and 1974. We got hammered. You had 2000, 2001, and 2, 9, 12, and 22% consecutively with the S&P 500. So the 10.2% average rate of return of the S&P is true, except 4 consecutive years in the Great Depression, 2 horrific years in the 70s, followed by 2 up years, followed by another bad year with high inflation as well. Then on top of that, 2001 and 2, and never mind October 2007 to March 9th of 2009. Now, on top of what we just went through. The nice thing, what we just went through is it was almost so fast that people didn't even have a chance to act. The long drawn out declines are what's painful. I'm telling you, the long drawn out ones. I haven't lived through it now. from 2000 to literally went into March of 2003, by the way. And you're sitting there in 2003, you're like, damn, I thought we're out of the woods. No. And it was nuts. So anyway, if that's what Thomas Anderson is arguing, I would run for the hills. I don't, that's the wrong answer. Does the right capital software take into account the new reduction we may experience in Social Security? Just how I just showed you. So you can show yourself taking a reduction of Social Security to 100% if you want, for sure, as a stress test. But only no one is going to, no software is going to program into their primary retirement planning software that Social Security will be reduced by 21%, because this is all speculation. We have no clue. And so what's going to happen is they're going to programming it into that Social Security is paid as you see it. Now you can do it. You can change your own numbers for sure. You can reduce your own benefit by 20%, and the incomes. I mean, it says right smack there, retirement income, and you input your Social Security. So if you're making $2,000 a month in Social Security, you want to say, I don't think I'm going to make $2,000 a month. I think I'm going to get a 20% reduction, which would be what, $1,600 a month, right? Yeah, 1,600. Yeah, right, $1,600. We could do that for sure. But the software itself won't do that for you, other than the one thing on the stress test I just showed you. This is as my right, Jerry. I moved up in life. This is my view of my basement. I'm saying it's weird those boats aren't moving. Been doing this for an hour. No one's moved. No seagulls have flied. Don't see Philly open up anytime soon. Oh boy. Oh Philly. Philly. All right. So asset locations is my man Alberto. This is where I was hoping. I wonder if I can. I don't know how to get rid of the back. I don't know how to do that. I was gonna. Yeah, I'm not sure how to get rid of the screen behind me here. I was gonna show you my chart, but anyway, so I was showing my whiteboard. So asset location is that I was hoping to do a video. I was gonna do that. I had it all ready to go, and then it just occurred to me I don't know how to do it. So asset location, you got the three buckets. You got taxable, tax deferred, and tax free. All right. So what's happening here is, oh, you all can't see that. Oh yeah. All right. So this sucks. That's weird. All right. So basically, it's gonna be tough. I think I'll get rid of the screen next time I'm doing a live stream. So you got the taxables like your brokerage accounts. All right. You get a 1099 INT, 1099 dividend. Tax deferred is your IRAs, 401ks, annuities. All right. And then you got your tax free, which would be life insurance, but we're not using really life insurance here. It's going to be Roth IRAs. So what happens is we want to reduce this as much as we possibly can. We want to reduce your tax deferred accounts and increase your tax free and your taxable accounts. Because going back to the guy I just showed you on the right capital and the tax, if that guy is in 12% tax bracket, and he was with $54,000 of income, he could have, he could have a boatload of money without running the numbers. I don't know off the top of my head, before he paid any taxes on his dividends or long-term capital gains. Because if 54,000 is from Social Security, I just have to run the numbers to get a gauge of provisional income and all that. But still, he can make significant income on qualified dividends and long-term capital gains and not pay any taxes whatsoever. So we want this to be up, the taxable account, when you're retired, and we want this to be down because, as I just showed you, when the guy took $33,000 out, not only was that $33,000 subject to income tax, but it made $20,000 of his Social Security subject to income tax as well. So it's a twofer. Not only you have to pay tax on your taxable distributions from your tax deferred accounts, but it's putting your Social Security more in taxation too, and that's not good. So anyway, I was hoping to show you something. I'll have to do a video on it tomorrow. But the point is, build up your tax deferred accounts while you're in a high tax bracket. Absolutely. The minute your tax bracket starts going down, you really want to start getting those suckers out, moved over to Roth or moved out to a taxable brokerage account for sure. Yeah, Mark's projecting 4% net on stocks. That makes sense, man. I got no qualm with that. I got no qualm. Net is after inflation, I'm assuming. So yeah, right on. That'd be real, 4% real. Make sure, Mark, now if net includes after taxes and inflation, we'd call that a real return. So the real return is net of inflation, just as a basic economics stuff. They'll say net means what? After taxes. Net sounds like after taxes to me. I think what you're saying is net of after inflation, but we'd want to say real return. And net just sounds like after tax. It's just not to beat the bush here, but just keep that in the back of mind. It's like SSI. SSI is not Social Security income. That's called supplemental security income. It's essentially for poor people. All right. So Social Security is not SSI. Social Security is literally Social Security, or it's actually retirement income. So you get your Social Security, your income is your spousal benefit, your own retirement benefit, or your survivor benefit. And so that's literally how Social Security defines its income: spousal, survivor, retirement. And if you look at Social Security, you see your FICA taxes, OASDI. That's old age, survivor, disability income. OASDI, all right, which is why SSDI, Social Security Disability Income. All right, so you got your Social Security disability, you got your survivor, you got your retirement, old age. Retirement is your spousal and your own. It's all the same thing. Whereas SSI is supplemental security income, which means you're poor. So you just got to be, a lot of people say, I'm getting this on SSI. And I'm like, yeah, for me, that does kind of confuse me a little bit. Rich said he took advantage of the CARES Act. That's sweet. Good. That's fantastic. I have a quick question. It was contributing to his 401k as a Roth. If I switch between my wife and I put 33 without offsetting the increased income, I was contributing in my 401k as a Roth. If I switch, and you start putting your own 401 money into your 401k, I think absolutely, because it's going to come out pre-tax for sure. So you have 33,000 you got to pay tax on. You're going to shield 33,000 from taxes, but contributing to your pre-tax 401k be pretty close to a wash, I'd think. So Wellington, I'm glad you did, Al. Al said he sat through the Vanguard Wellington call. They said they're researching investments in corporate AAA, triple B, and double B. They said a lot of good companies falling in these ratings. Yeah, I've that's interesting. I've heard that on occasion, where people say, yeah, no, we got to be, I've heard that on occasion. Let's just put it this way. At USAA, we used to have the high yield fund, and they changed it to the high income fund because they wanted to be able to go into the lower edge of the investment grade bonds, and high yield inherently meant junk bonds. They could not go investment grade. So they went to high income fund, which gave them access to low investment grade bonds. And that was a pretty good move. That's pretty prudent on their USAA income fund, or high income fund, as opposed to high yield. Sounds like Wellington sees value there too, in the lower end of the investment grade bonds. I get no qualm with that. If anyone can manage bonds, it's going to be Vanguard. That's Vanguard essentially runs the Wellington firm that runs Wellington. So I'm pretty comfortable with that for sure. If you owe more than you can pay, that isn't good. Yep. Let's see. India still has a long way to go in infrastructure. Yeah. Which could be, I mean, we had a long way to go in infrastructure too at one point in the United States. I don't know how capitalistic the BJP is. I think they're more capitalistic than most previous India political parties, right? So I don't know. I mean, are they allowing for? You see, this is the problem that we have in some of these developing countries. A guy named Hernando de Soto, not the explorer, but Hernando de Soto is an economist in Peru, and he wrote a book called The Other Path. And what it was is that Peru, the heavy regulation, even under Fujimori, who was a pretty right-wing guy, he took it to the shining path and then was arrested and thrown in jail. And I think his daughter, I don't know if she's still president, but she was for a little bit. And the left, as they always do, they always go after you. They went after Pinochet, they went after Fujimori. It's what they do, man. They play the long game. They take vengeance. Look at Ortega in freaking Nicaragua. Anyway, so what happened is Fujimori went after the shining path. He certainly violated some people's civil rights without question. That's not debatable. Like Pinochet, same thing, without question, not debatable. The alternative, though, was the Shining Path was literally killing everybody. And if he didn't do that, then the Marxists would have, taken over Lima. All right, long story short. So Fujimori, Hernando de Soto wrote a book called The Other Path. I think it came out in '94, talking about the Peru, the black market. And the black market it's kind of like Greece, man. No one pays by the rules. Everyone recognizes that they could be the one thrown in jail for violating the rules and regulations, not paying the taxes. So the way they avoid going to jail is they bribe the cops. This is I don't know if that's happening in India, but that's the concern you got, is that if everything's on the down low, the only people who operate on the up and up are the fools, if that makes sense. And my concern is we're getting more and more like that in America. I mean, just think about how insane it is, my friends. Who's I talking to? Someone in Arizona or something like that. I forgot what it was, but they were doing barbering, essentially. Was it California? Maybe I think it was California, doing their barbering, the haircuts, without approval to open back up again. And they said they could lose their license if they were caught. I said, this is so friggin' insane. I'm glad these people are rebelling by, engaging in business. But the idea that the threat is a barbershop could lose his freaking license. Why do you need a license to cut hair? Can we this is insane. Because Josh, some of them use chemicals. All right, well, someone gets hurt, then that person can sue. We have ways to make up for this stuff. Or guess what? You put your big boy pants on and you say, something, I don't think I want to go this place because it looks kind of shady, like he might be using chemicals on my head. How about the fact that people take responsibility for their actions once in a while? The idea that this guy was cowering, and he still did it, thank God, but the idea that a guy was cowering under the cover of darkness to cut some dude's hair, or out of fear of losing his license to cut hair, is freaking absurd. This is nuts. My man Ducey in Arizona got rid of a lot of this crap, thank God. I don't know where that stands right now, but I know he's saying this is nuts. It's inherently discriminatory, by the way, against freaking poor people, mostly minorities. I say this a million times a Sunday. If it wasn't for the Institute of Justice, poor black women would not be able to cut people's hair in African braids because they had to go through $1,800 of hours of cosmetology, whatever it is, where they didn't tell you how to cut people's in African braids. They just told you how to cut it the way that the school told you how to do it. And they're like, I'm not cutting people's hair like that. They want African braids. We don't know how to cut African braids. So why I'm in your damn school? Because we make you go to our school. It's all freaking, we all know what's happening here. It's the big lobbyists who give money to the politicians to pass laws to eliminate competition. It's completely monopolistic. Everyone knows this. And thankfully, the Institute of Justice and the American Defense, ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, and groups like that will fight. Judicial Watch will fight, and it will fight to expand liberty. But they're up against these huge corporations, these huge rackets on K Street in DC, and the political powers that be, who love getting their back scratched. I mean, look, Paul Ryan, the biggest, all these guys, they all fall into it, man. Republicans and Democrats alike. I just find it funny where we got some of those freedom people is on the states run by Republicans. That lady in Rhode Island, I like her a little bit, but I'm not quite sure she's going. She has a challenge with her, but I like that lady, Gina, I think is her name, Raimondo. I'm a fan of hers for the most part because she's taken to the Democrats as a Democrat, but those are few and far between. I just find it funny. The same people want minority rights, or the same people voting for freaking big politicians who are going to limit ability for minorities to engage in business activities without the threat of being jailed. Nuts. All right, so Al, sounds like you're not a fan of what Wellington is doing there, huh? I don't know. I don't have any qualm with that, though. I don't have any qualm with Wellington going down the market a little bit and seeing some better bond opportunities. Scott, are you still pessimistic on the housing market of Georgia? Yeah, how are you going to have the demand if 30 million people don't have work, man? That's what I think, Scott. And if they come back to work, are they coming back full wages? Have they already gone through some of their savings? I mean, are they trying to move? I get that they're more. I don't know. I don't see how the demand is going to be there, but I certainly see a huge supply coming down the pike as people get say we got to get out of this house, because if things go south again come October, we can't afford it. I can see, and then you got this huge supply, you got no demand. That will only do, when you have a big supply and no demand, you only have one thing that happens to price. Anyone want to guess? Big supply, no demand. What happens to price? So whoever says it first, I will. You guys, who says it first? Big supply, no demand. What happens to price? All right, so I'll let you guys think on that for a second. I'll let that sink in. A license or barrier to entry. Exactly right, man. License are nothing more than barrier to entry. My own business, financial planners. Yep, that's right. Scott, big supply. Scott wins the interwebs for the day. Supply, big, demand, low, prices drop like a brick and water for sure. So someone said on their barriers to entry, so my own business, they're trying to limit people's ability to call themselves a financial planner, as long they have to have a college degree and they have to be CFP, certified financial planners. So who do you think the biggest advocates for this new law would be, or regulation? Well, so think about it. It would be against the regular, essentially illegal for you to call yourself a financial planner unless you have a college degree and a CFP, if you pass a CFP. Who do you think would benefit from that? So let me put that out there to you. Now, look, I have a master's in financial planning and I have a CFP. I'm 100 unequivocally opposed to this nonsense, 100%, because I am a libertarian. And I think people have a right to engage in the behavior they want to engage in, as long as they're not bothering other people. And if you feel your rights are being violated, well, you can take it through courts. I got no qualm with that. If you feel you need the government to protect you because you don't know how to think for yourself, well, that's not really freedom now, is it? All right, a lot of you guys said down. That's good. That's good. All right, let's see what else. Justice says, can you roll a Roth TSP into existing Roth IRA? As long as the TSP allows it. Off the top of my head, I think they do, but I don't know, Justin. But yes, the answer is absolutely, for sure. People live in the Northeast going to be huge income. Yeah, no, 100%. They make big incomes in the Northeast and they move to the South for those big Social Security and pension checks and drive up the prices for everybody else. Exactly. Let's see. All right. Doug B was looking at FSKKR today. They're at 8.65 year to month YTM for 5 years. So I went to look for company details. Their S&P has dropped 50% and dividends at 23%. But the share price has dropped 50% and dividends at 23%. Yep. Right on. If interest rates go up, many companies will be in die. That's spot on, man. I completely agree. If interest rates go up, many companies will be in the world hurt. Absolutely. Could not agree more with that. Yep. Mark says the only linear return again get guaranteed is a 3% TIA. I could 100% right. 100% agree with that. I'm sure Dave Ramsey has revised his projections. Has he? I don't know, man. I mean, 2 years ago, we didn't revise them. That's including 2008. Craig, what are your thoughts on bucket one, Ginnie Mae cash, CD bucket, 2, Wellington bucket, 3, total U.S. market? Why even have, I don't get why you'd have the, I get what you're saying, Craig. I have no qualm with it. No qualm at all, actually. You are going to have some redundancy between the U.S. total market and the Wellington, because the Wellington is predominantly on the 65% stocks, and those stocks are going to be large cap dividend payers, which is the U.S. total market. That's 70% of that is the S&P 500, of which 40% of the S&P 500 is what the Wellington fund owns. So a lot of redundancy there. I just I'm not sure I get where you're going with that. I don't know. That seems like. Yeah, I don't know. I might, instead of doing bucket 3 U.S. total total stock index, I might just do the Vanguard Growth Index instead, because you're going to have the large cap value stocks in Wellington. You know, if you want that, and then you have to offset that, so there's not a lot of redundancy in the large cap U.S. growth large cap index, or the and the VBK, which I own. I own VBK, which is the Vanguard small cap growth index as well. So that makes sense. Yep, I remember the 2008. Could not agree more. So Bruce in Rochester, his town just did a quick reassessment, and guess what? They raised his assessment. Town needs more money from his taxpayers. Yep, but when the market goes down, crickets. Come here, buddy. That's why I get to get out of there, Bruce. Come join us in Georgia, man. Let's see. Okay, gotcha. Hey, Denise. Pablo, come on, man. Come on up. Pablo, come on. Uppy. Everyone wants to see Pablo. Oh, yeah. Oh, there he is. All right. Let's see what else we got here. All right. So let's, so it's not about return on investment, it's return of investment as interest rates go negative. That's interesting, because most people are saying they're worried about the fixed income side as interest rates go up. So I'm surprised to hear you say you're worried about return of investments as interest rates go negative. I mean, I kind of going back to what Viner Earthlink said, is that if interest rates, well, he was saying going up. I don't know. It's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. What are some positives coming out of the country's current situation? Well, I posted a question on my community tab the other day, Rick. I said, what do you guys think? We're going to be more free or less free? And I think I had 150, 200 people respond, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was 65% thought there could be less free, and 35% thought there'd be more. And I tend to agree with that. I think once we've seeded the ground, we're still taking off our friggin' shoes at the TSA. Well, I mean, literally, do we need the TSA anymore? We all know the answer is no. Unfortunately, many of us fell for the fear of 9/11. I know I did. I learned my lesson. I remember hearing some right-wing guys say, once we give the TSA this authority, we'll never get it back. And I remember saying, come on, man, we got to do this to protect ourselves. And I was wrong. Took the red pill, and now here I am. I realize how much a mistake the George W. Bush administration was. Robert Mueller, the freaking that guy was just bad people. Bad. Remember, George Bush tried to get Harriet Miers on the Supreme Court, for heaven's sake. Harriet Miers. If memory serves, he had a Republican Senate too. So it wasn't like it was George H.W. Bush who had to get David Souter in there. George W. Bush, if memory serves, had a Republican Senate. And he tried to get us Harriet Miers. He tried to push unlimited amnesty on top of all the other crap. I'm embarrassed to say how bad of a president that guy was, and how enthusiastic I was to vote for that guy and support him. Nuts. And I was wrong. And the Bush-Obama years just proved that the government is going to never slows. It always grows. It always looks for crises to grow, and expand its power. And it wasn't until Trump came along board that we were at least able to arrest that to some degree. But the question is it what we're going through now? Now we've ceded all this authority to freaking Dr. Fauci? The hell? Guy's been a freaking bureaucrat since the 1980s. What? And yet people who I just sitting there, I'm still stunned, Rick. How many people fall for this? It's insane. It's insanity. It's scary. But like Six Hacks Hammer said today, everyone does initially. They fall for the fear, and then each and every month that goes by, it's like the bubble pops. Like they look around and it's kind of like, I say this a million times a Sunday, like in Simpsons, there's an episode where the children, the power goes out, I think, and they got to go outside for the first time in days. They're like looking outside, like whoa, and they see the sun, and they feel the wind, and then everybody's out playing outside, jump roping, flying kites, and it's like butterflies, and so peaceful. So it's kind of like, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping Sticks Hackhammer is right, that people are going to wake up and say, what the hell? I was under this fog of fear, and hopefully they'll get more red pills as we go forward. So we'll be less fog for fear. But I think these negative Nellies, these Karens of the world, for some reason, they just they need authority to push you around, and they get it anytime there's fear, and it's not good. I'm pessimistic, not gonna lie to you. At the end of the day, as a Christian, I mean, I know how it ends, and that's why I'm still optimistic. So I look what happened to Joseph. I'm like, man, if that guy can deal with that, I think we're gonna be okay for sure. And so my man Invest and Grow says he loves optimism. Get rid of the negativity in life is wonderful. Yeah, that's where you come to have a relationship. For me, come to have a relationship with Jesus. Jesus, you can't help but be optimistic. You say, man, that guy died for me. So that way, all I got to do is believe that he's a son of God and ask for his forgiveness. That's all I got to do. And I do it every morning. I do it every night. And it doesn't mean you're not going to sin. Doesn't mean that it doesn't mean anything. It just means, man, I love what Jesus did for me. I love what he did for you. And I love what he did for that guy. And he did it for all of us. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, pink, yellow, brown, green. It doesn't matter if you're a man or woman. It doesn't matter if you speak freaking Eskimo or English. Nothing matters. It matters that he did it. And there's to be a glorious await for us once we get up there. And I don't know what's going to be, but the idea that's so glorious, your human brain can't even fathom it. So how can you not be optimistic? So with that said, I just think I'm trying hard not to let this get me pessimistic, but I can't help it when I see the fear mongering going out there. It's no different. The thing is, many of these guys who don't fall for the climate change propaganda are falling for this. I'm like, it's the same friggin' thing. It's part and parcel the same thing. Why? I don't get it. The same people who say the climate sciences are a bunch of frauds are saying these other guys are not. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm it's the weirdest thing. It's crazy. If you know Michael Mann's hockey stick is a piece of garbage, why would you not look at Neil Ferguson's with the same level of skepticism? All right. Let's see what else we got. Most people can't make $800K a year anywhere. Ain't that the truth? Can you imagine making that kind of money, paying that kind of taxes? I can't even imagine. All right, what else we got? Mark, what's the possibility of a deep recession? I think it's I think it's a depression. I mean, friggin' 20% unemployed. We're not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. No way, man. No way. It's not a recession. It's a depression. Recession is just two straight GDP negatives, quarterly negatives on GDP. That's a recession. That comes and goes all the time. A depression is when you have deflation that sets in for a rather extended period of time. And if you look at history of the United States, we've been more deflationary than we've been inflationary. There's only been one rather short period of time in the US from 1966 to 1982 that inflation was the bugaboo. All the other times has been deflation with low inflation. All right. We had 1966 and 1982, and that was just because of insanity of price controls by another horrible Republican president, Richard Nixon, and Lyndon Johnson too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he doesn't get a free ride there. But from 66, who got elected in 68? It was Nixon. All right. He of the guy who went to China. He of the guy who said we're all Keynesians now. He of the guy who had the EPA, the OSHA, all the crap, the price of wage controls. He of the guy proposing the first universal basic income. And so we have huge inflation because of price controls. Shocking. So if you want huge inflation, you get socialism gets it to you. It's called scarcity. It's going to create scarcity, and inherently that increases inflation. It's literally that simple. So we have historically in the United States, it hasn't been inflationary at all. It's been low inflation to deflation. That's just not really debatable. So we've had a 75 years of a great slumber, as Eric Weinstein calls it, from his the Portal podcast, and I completely agree with that. But even those 75 years of the Great Slumber, only a majority of that was relatively low inflation, relatively low. So it's not true to say inflation is always and everywhere coming, because it's been in the last couple of decades, sure, but certainly hasn't been throughout the time of the United States. Certainly hasn't been throughout the time of human history. It's not true. Now we can always argue that Caesar, the Romans were slicing off parts of the coinage and all that. I mean, I get that, but what we're dealing with here is a different scenario where we're sitting there thinking, looking at 30 million people or 30 million jobs lost, probably 20% unemployment, not that much money on the side to begin with for people who had the ability to save as it was. So where does that lead? When people don't have jobs, when they got to pay for their own health insurance. This is why insurance should never be tied to your employer. If there's anything positive, Rick, is that hopefully people see the idea of tying your health insurance to your employer is suicidal. We shouldn't be doing that crap. And that's the argument that the single payer make. I don't want single payer. I want vouchers, just like Medicare Advantage. They will give you, whatever your Medicare premiums were, your FICA will give you, $10,000 a year. Go buy your own damn health insurance. Your voucher, just like GI Bill, just like student loans, just like Medicare Advantage, just like Medicare for the most part as well. Most of that is freaking voucher stuff. So I say, just let us have a voucher. Give us the money. We can go do whatever we want with it. Absolutely. We have to have some level minimum. I get it. You always have to have minimum, because the government will never let you be truly free. But say, as long as you pass these minimums, like in car insurance, we'll allow you to have health. We'll just let you buy your own insurance with your taxes that you pay. It's not like it's free, because that's what's going to happen. I think a lot of people are missing out on how much people's healthcare is going to come out of their own pocket because they have no job, and they're going to stay on Cobra. All right. Cobra ain't cheap. Oh, they're going to go to ACA. They're not going to ACA because they've had 3 months of income. They're not going to qualify a lot of these people for ACA credits. So ACA is not happening. So because this happened in May, essentially April, May, they've had 3 to 4 months of income. They're not going to qualify tax credit or the credits for ACA. And so they're going to have to freaking pay Cobra, which is, $1,500 a month. And they have no job and they have no savings. How the hell is that going to happen? I don't think this is good. I think we're going to depression. But that does not mean stock market falls. I'm telling you right now, if you look at the 30s, it wasn't nearly as bad as what people make it seem. The worst part of the market was the inflationary times of 66 to 82. It's just not debatable. The depression wasn't as bad as what people see when you factor in inflation. The time from 66 to 82 was bad because inflation was so bad. And then if you factor taxes on top of that, it was fugly. Let's see. Chatham, man, right on, man. Shore Hills, I know that. My sister lives in Morristown. Yeah, we don't pay state income tax. They get you in property tax. Yeah, I'd much rather live in a high state income tax than a high property tax state, for sure. Now, state income tax, because you can manipulate it by watching how your income is. High property taxes, you can't. You own it, you pay the property. Now, unfortunately, a lot of states up north have high property tax, high state income tax, as well as high sales tax. But New Hampshire would be the best, where they got no state income tax, no sales tax, and just have high property taxes. So that would be the best. But Texas, high property taxes and a decent sales tax as well. All right, let's see what we got. Yeah, study CalFARS, exactly. We'll pay freaking taxes. We can, not like that. I don't want to fund all these places overseas. It's crazy, man. Like with the research to find out why guinea pigs in freaking North Africa honk instead of howl. I just made that up. Let's see. Okay, will there still be in Wall Street jobs in the future? Okay. I'm in Cali. Our property tax aren't that bad. And I'm different. Yeah, I tell you, California is not as, look, I will never move there because I like my rifles, but California from a tax, look at him. He is so doggone cute. Hi, buddy. Hi. California, from an income tax perspective, is not as bad as a lot of people make it seem. It's just not. And I tell people all the time, you don't need to leave California if you enjoy it there. You don't. My man Thomas, 63. What's that? $700,000, no mortgage, need about $4K a month. Can I retire? Yeah, dude, absolutely. $4K a month on $700,000 on Social Security coming at you. That's man, that's a no-brainer there, brother. Yep, right on. Yes. I sure hope we're past the color of one skin. We all bleed red. I could not agree with you more. We've been. Could not agree with you more. Even with all those financial credential institutions who have issues with defining fiduciary duties, I could care less about fiduciary duties. I don't see how a fiduciary could charge 1% of your assets under management. I just don't. I don't see that at all. But they do. And they get away with it because they can say they're fiduciaries because they're not selling anything for commission. No one hardly sells anything for commissions anymore, at least investment products. So that's I don't know. All right. So I think we're going to get ready to call it a night here. I'm going to go watch what's it called? Belgravia with my beautiful on mom. Oh, by the way, happy Mother's Day. Forgot to say. I'm could not be happier for moms out there and how needed you are. And I do want to say too, for you stay-at-home moms, we need you. And that doesn't mean if you're not a stay-at-home mom, we're not valued. Absolutely. I just don't think stay-at-home moms are valued in this society. We got people like Sheryl Sandberg, lean in, everybody lean in, as she's hiring nannies. Most people can't afford nannies there, Sheryl. So they either have to sacrifice their careers to stay home like my beautiful did, or they have to freaking bust their butts. And if they're single moms, I guarantee they can't afford to hire a nanny. And I guarantee they're busting their butts trying to make ends meet for sure. So I just, I'm sympathetic as all can be to the idea that women have a rights, but yet they should follow the rights of what Sheryl Sandberg says they should do, and all these other quote unquote feminists that say, oh, you're violating what Gloria Steinem and all these other people did for us by staying home. Okay, what happened to my body, my choice? I don't like that. And I know there's men who leave their women high and dry. I know for a fact. And I know it happens the other way too. And on Father's Day, we'll talk about that. But that ticks me off too. Guys who are poor, they have their spouse who goes up with them as poor, and then they start accumulating money, and they see that little young thing at work, and next thing you know, they're leaving their wife of 30 years behind so they can dally with a young thing. I find that to be I don't like that. I find that to be bad. Everyone makes mistakes. Hopefully I'll never do that, but that's not cool, man. It's not cool. And for women who stay the course with their kids, just real quick, my mom and I have had a rocky relationship, but I do remember fondly of some things that she shared with me, told me when she was young, or I was young, that really led me down the right path, man. To be compassionate, to not look at people for skin color, like someone said on here. To just be compassionate. I can't. She was a hippie, man. I mean, now she wasn't raised a hippie. I mean, my grandpa was a captain of the Navy. He's one of those old school men. But she just had anyway. So she has issues. Do we all? But she she defined me, man, and I'm always grateful for that. And I did leave her a message today. She wasn't there, but no, I just think when you're parent, some parents might not remember, or young folks who are becoming parents might not realize that some of the stuff you say and do will be tattooed on your kids' brains for the rest of their life, for sure. And some of the things my mom and my dad said and did is tattooed in a positive way on my brain for the rest of my life. It's weird too. I remember various conversations like it was yesterday, and I don't know why I remember those conversations over these ones, but anyway, Happy Mother's Day to you moms out there. We need you. You're needed. You are needed. And I'm glad you're here. All right. We'll see you guys next Sunday. Thanks now. And if you have any thoughts, questions, comments, put them in the show notes later. We'll see you.